god, and there's these creatures you can control and you can teach them stuff. And you can control a giant monkey and teach it to throw and eat poo. And like, who doesn't want to control a giant monkey and teach it to throw and eat poo? Okay, that's really cool. So immediately he's hooked in a lot of the casual people there straight away, because that's just one little cool feature that he's really highlighting in the grand scheme of the game. Right. The next one is random drops. Now, for some reason, our brains seem to be hardwired to react really, really well to random drops. And a random drop would really be defined as something as, if I perform an action repetitively over and over and over again, and every so often I get this really good big reward. Poker machine companies know this, that's the whole purpose of poker machines. A lot of gaming companies know this really well. Blizzard, believe me, know this really, really well. They did it in Diablo. We were all, as I said, we had this Pavlovian response to the sound of a ring dropping in Diablo 2. You hear that ding and you get all excited, and we would just kill infinite number of monsters just to hear that ding. Okay, that was the random drop in effect. And for some reason, we just seem to be psychologically wired to love this kind of stuff. World of Warcraft is another example of a game where it's just so polished. The act of grinding is so polished, and the drops just occur at exactly the right intervals. Yes. Diablo 2 equals poker machine. At the bottom there, they really are quite a similar beast. Okay, another little game here I'm going to talk about for a moment. Habbo Hotel. Who's heard of Habbo Hotel? Yeah, lots of people. I've never heard of that till recently. It's another one that surprised me by just how much revenue this thing generates. It generates like $70 million a year profit. It's just crazy with hardly anyone ever looking after this simple little 2D site. And the way it does it is via community. If you add community into your hardcore games, that's a great way to hook in casual people. Now, humans are a grouping species. We need community. Our brains seem to be psychologically wired to need a number of sort of relationships in place for us to be happy. 2 or 3, 4 close relationships, maybe 10 sort of medium kind of close relationships, and maybe another 30 or 40 distant relationships. But there's been a lot of research done by some people, and I can't quote the exact research here, but I can just pass it on to you anecdotally, that your brain can't actually tell the difference between a relationship that's with a real person physically in the same space as you, or a person sitting on the other end of a computer somewhere halfway across the world. Your brain thinks a relationship is a relationship. And so by adding community to a game, some community feature, you're providing players with the means to form some of these relationships. They may not have enough in their real life, but they may have enough, they may just enjoy some of these more, but you're providing a means of doing that. And that's something that even casual people really will enjoy. Psychologists have this thing that MMO designers know about it called together alone. And what together alone means is that although, think of it as someone sitting in Starbucks working on his laptop. He's enjoying sitting in Starbucks working on his laptop, even though he's not interacting with any of the other people in Starbucks. His brain is kind of wired to enjoy being around other people, even though he's not physically interacting with them at the time. And part of the reason for that is it doesn't matter if I'm sitting in a paddock somewhere and you're sitting in the same paddock, I'm eating a coconut and you're picking some berries. The fact that we're both there means that if a predator enters the clearing where we are, that we can either beat him off together, or if we both run, he might eat you instead of me. They're kind of the safety in numbers. Now, together alone is really, really cool for community, because it means you only really have to provide a space for players to know that other players exist, and they're actually getting some social interaction. You can see it in a game like World of Warcraft, for example, where a player will walk through town just wearing this very cool armour. It doesn't matter that he's not talking with anyone. He's interacting with those people just by being there and showing exactly everything he's found. And Habbo Hotel is a prime example of this kind of stuff. in Have a Hotel, what happens is it's aimed at 12 to 18s mainly, and they can SMS in things that they want to buy for their hotel room. And they just put them in the hotel room, and people can sort of wander into their hotel room and see them, and if they want, they can interact and chat, or they can just wander around the hotel all day. But the numbers that this Have a Hotel does, the number of hits on the site, the amount of turnover it gets, is quite frightening. At Infinite, we've discovered with our communities that over the years, once we get players into a community, they tend to stay their customers. They stay with us and keep buying our games. We're working on an idea at the moment, a little website where all of our games will submit, a little bit like Neopets actually, will submit a score into the website after people play them. People can accumulate gold pieces and use those gold pieces to buy armies, and use these armies to sort of conquer little bits of this gigantic world map, and all interact with each other. Even though they might not actually be chatting, they'll be interacting on this kind of world map. And we're making that free for all of our games, just to try to get the single-player people into the community, because we know once we've got them there, we think about, we lose about 2/3 of our customers every time we do a new game in our franchises. And we don't have to lose those people. We can put the community features in there, put them in. That's a good thing, they're going to stick around. Next, female characters. Quite an obvious one, you would think, but surprising how many games sort of say, well, we're targeting males and that's as far as we go, and we're putting some male characters in, we're not going away with female characters. We went through this process with Puzzle Quest. We threw Puzzle Quest out to a focus group, and one of the bits of feedback we got back from the people there was that a lot of the people, not just females, a lot of the males too, would like to have played female characters, or where the female characters were. And so we figured it would be a big gain for a small cost. When you actually add up the cost for adding female characters into a game like Puzzle Quest, you've got 8 new character portraits that need to be done. Okay, costs a few $1,000s. A few sprites, costs another couple of $1,000s. Rewriting of some dialogue, costs maybe $1,000 or $2,000. And an extra 30,000 words per SKU, unfortunately, that need to be translated in French, Italian, German, Spanish, Japanese. So about another $30,000 on that was extra translation. But all up for around about $35,000, we added female characters to the game. Now that's a very small cost. We don't have any numbers on how many extra units we sold there, but you don't have to sell many extra units to make back $35,000. So it's almost certainly working in favour. And one other thing that should never be forgotten, and this is a phenomenon apparently been around for years, I've only noticed it recently, and that's WTFAB. That's nothing to do with what the, okay? I call that the strange little phenomenon, watching the female avatar's butt. This is something that some guys will do. Okay, we're not all hardcore players, right? We tend to look at an avatar and we project ourselves onto that avatar. So if we're male, we quite often tend to play a male because we don't want to appear a little bit girly because we're playing a girl. But there is a large group of casual players out there who, faced with 12 hours of gameplay, looking at the back of a character, these males would prefer to look at the back of a female character. Okay, just it sounds awfully sexist, but it's true. Just know it as a designer and use that fact to your advantage. Tutorials. For hardcore games, quite often we expect the gamer to understand how the game actually works. And it's become de rigueur these days to really provide a tutorial to teach, to sort of step the gamer in. But there's a lot more that we can do with tutorials to hook in the casual gamers. I mean, these guys really need to have their hands held through the game. And we found this out in Puzzle Quest a number of times, the levelling up mechanic, something we take for granted in hardcore games every day. We got feedback from casual people when they picked up Puzzle Quest. Why am I matching these purple stars? They give me experience. What does that do?